In 2013, the Sony PlayStation 4 would be released to the world, and it would be a chart-topping success. In the prior generation, it seemed Microsoft would dominate and even almost overtake Sony in the console war. Due to poor choices on Microsoft's part that seemed anti-consumer at the time, Sony's PS4 would be a smash out the gate. Today, the console war may be more boring than ever, but there is no doubt that the PlayStation 4 put Sony back at the top for home game consoles. Alright, so the other day I stumbled upon this listing for a PlayStation 4 out of an abandoned storage unit. It was pretty cheap, so I figured worth taking a shot. Let's see what's up. Looks like we've got a pretty scuffed up PlayStation 4. Let me go grab a monitor and controller, see if this thing actually works. Awesome. So the PlayStation fired up on the first try. Did a couple boot cycles there. I guess just something it does. I've actually never had one of these before. But let's go ahead, plug up this controller, and see what happens. Awesome, so we booted right into the PlayStation successfully on the first try. Looks like I got really lucky on this purchase. So let's go ahead and factory reset it, test a game, and go from there. Alright, let's try to get into the service menu now. Alright, I guess that worked out. Now let's try to move on. So before I went ahead and connected this to the internet and added an account, I wanted to see what version of firmware we're on and if this will be able to be jailbroken. Okay, so looks like it's on firmware 8.03. Instead of adding an online account at the moment, I'm just going to go ahead and look into jailbreaking this. For now though, let's move on and get this thing turned off, torn down, and work on restoring it. Okay, let's try to remove this hard drive cover. Now to remove the hard drive screw. And slide that out. Next we would have to remove these 4 screws. One of the factory stickers is still in the way, so let's go ahead and remove it. So upon further inspection, it looks like these 3 screws are completely missing. Let's remove the lower one though. And now this should pop right off. Let's disconnect our power supply. And it looks like, again, these 3 screws are missing. Only the 2 Phillips head screws are still in here. And we'll disconnect our antenna now. can see here, the case is actually split. I don't know if it'll focus on that, if you can tell. And we'll just go ahead and remove this upper shield here. And if you can see there, got another piece of cracked plastic. So I went ahead and cleaned that with some isopropyl alcohol. Just gonna add a little bit of super glue now. Hopefully this will help. So I'm going to let that set for a few minutes, and then I'm going to come back and sand a few things, get it cleaned, and thinking about hydro dipping this console since it's so beat up anyways. Alright, let's go ahead and get the bottom lid of our PS4 here. Hopefully this will work. Alright everyone, so it's been a couple weeks since I was last working on this project, and it's about time we get this sanded and get it back together, see what we can do with this PlayStation. So I'm going to try with the 1500 and 2000 grit. I do have some 1000 grit if I really need it, but I think this will be all we need. Everything's looking nice and glossy, it just does need a good sanding to smooth it down. So let's move on. Now that we're back, I've moved inside because it's way too hot outside today. So I'm going to go ahead and lightly polish this. Then we're going to move on, hit it with some wax, and get it reassembled. And now it's time to get some wax on here. So let's see how this turns out. And here we've got our PS4 all waxed and all cleaned up. Everything's looking nice and shiny. And I guess it's time we move on and go ahead and get this put back together. Now before we do anything, let's go ahead and get our die cleaned up. I've got some Q-tips and isopropyl alcohol, so let's get to work. And if you can see here,
we've got our die all nice and shiny, all cleaned up. Now that we've got our board put back in, I'm gonna go ahead and just speed up through this process for you and meet you at the end. Now we're gonna go ahead and put our hard drive back in, but I decided this is the original drive. This thing's obviously been thrown around, beaten up, and it's a slow hard drive. So I decided to go ahead and grab a cheap SSD. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in and get this buttoned up the rest of the way. Now that we've got our 1TB SSD installed, let's go ahead and get this cover popped back on. Then we'll go ahead and get our software reinstalled. Now that we've got everything reassembled, I've gone ahead and gotten our USB stick ready right here with our firmware. So let's go ahead, get this in safe mode, and get everything set up on this new SSD. Now that that's all working, so I've actually been gifted a few games recently, and I figured that would make this a lot easier to make sure the PS4 is working. So I've got a copy of Street Fighter V right here. Let's go ahead and pop this disc in. Well, everything seems to be working fine here. Playing a game of Street Fighter V just fine. I'm a little rusty, but everything's working out. So I guess we can call this a success. This definitely was a good Trash or Treasure find. I got really lucky. It might need a fan soon. It's a little noisy, and I don't think the bearing is fully stable. It seems to kind of wobble every once in a while. But after cleaning it out, works just fine. I'm really happy with this. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up the video from here. It's been quite a long one, but I'm really happy with the results, and I had fun making another video. I hope you guys liked it as well. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and drop a comment down below if you have any suggestions or ideas for future topics. Don't forget to subscribe and ding that bell so you get notified every time I release content like this in the future. Well, as always, thanks for watching, and until next time.